Hello. So I'm going to count something here just to make a point before we start this conversation. This is one, two, three, four, five, six, seven, eight, nine, 10, 11, 12. 13, 14, and 15, 16, 17, 18. Guys, coming to Canada is possible for studies, even when you don't seem to have the funding. The question is, are you ready? Welcome to my channel. Hello guys, this is Chris. Welcome to Prime Solutions with Chris. And on this channel, we'll be talking about everything education, study, live, work, and lifestyle in Canada. And every of our discussion will be based on not just research, authentic research, not just knowledge, but also my own lived experience. Right from when I arrived here more than 12 years ago for studies. So I would want to believe that I would do my best to provide you guys the broad information you need to be able to make that informed choice of, do I make Canada home if I have a dream of leaving my country to get international education or not? So I made that choice, even though that choice didn't start from Canada, but I made that choice that eventually I have to leave my home country to get international education. But in the next 15 minutes or thereabout, I'm not sure how long. And by the way, if you've not subscribed to my channel, subscribe to this channel, Prime Solutions with Chris, if you want to travel or make Canada home. If you want to come to Canada for studies, this is the right place to be, because here I will provide all the information you need about Canada, and of course about studies and work and live and everything that you would, in totality, you will need to be able to make that informed decision about coming to Canada or not, for your studies, for your career and everything. So join me and let's hit the road. Again, like I said, please subscribe to my channel. Refer your friends to subscribe to the channel too, particularly those that have interest of traveling, coming to Canada for studies. What I will be doing today is provide an overview of what it means to come to Canada for studies, and I'll be using my own lived experiences to put buttress on so many factors that can potentially help us to make that decision and make the right decision at the most appropriate time. So without wasting our time, let me start by providing very quick overview of my own self. Of course, I'm a Nigerian, Nigerian Canadian also. And again, like I said, I've been here for 12 years, but my first degree, I want to start from my university days, not my secondary school days. My first degree was in Nigeria from University of Benin. I graduated from Department of History and International Studies with a major in history. So they call us historian, and I'm proud of that whenever they call me historian. But anyway, eventually, when I served my fatherland like we do through NYSC, I worked briefly in Abuja before eventually, not even before eventually, while I was working, my thought was, okay, you've had this dream of leaving Nigeria for more studies. Where do you want to go? You know many countries, but you've never been in any of these countries. Where is the best place to go to? And I left the options open. from US to UK to so many countries in Europe. Canada wasn't one of them. I'll be honest with you. So, but a lot of things that informed my choices then was, where do I get scholarship? Where do I get funding for school? I don't want to just be talking about going back to school and I don't have the resources to back myself or to fund my education. So I was a little bit concerned about, how do I get the resources I need to fund my education? Fine, I made a very good, excellent CGPA in school, in the university, which is good, a good foundation, I would say, which I never take for granted. But that wasn't enough. I need to, put in more extra effort through research to know exactly what next. So before even going for NYSC, I had to, start going to browsing, even overnight browsing, I would say, trying to research about schools in Australia, schools in US, schools in Europe, from UK to Norway, from Norway to Sweden. Remember, the focus for me then was funding. How do I get funding for my master's program? And I wasn't so concerned about what program I want to take at master's level, but I already know that, or I have an idea of options I have. But I wasn't too sure yet about the exact how to source for funding. But I know I also needed that funding. It's actually more important. So what I did was, I focused on, of course, then, and even up then, Sweden was tuition free, Norway tuition free, US not tuition free, but can offer some scholarship, and even half scholarship, full scholarship, and everything. I did my research and applied to all the schools. The admissions came, some didn't come, but those that came, particularly from US, did not offer me the full scholarship I wanted. But I also know that I applied to some other countries in Europe where it's basically tuition free, that you have to just be able to have enough funds to pay for your accommodation, your feeding, and everything. And my thought was, okay, if the schools in US cannot offer you full scholarship, let's keep waiting for those schools in Europe and see what they can do. Remember, at this point, Canada was not in the picture. You need to remember this. So guys, I need to say this, I'm not scripted in what I'm trying to do on this channel, and I chose not to be scripted. I want to be able to speak from the heart, so you know exactly how passionate I am about trying to help as many people as possible make their dream come true, but when it comes to relocating to Canada for studies. So by the time I was, working, and of course, this is from NYSC to my working, the few years I worked in Abuja, I was still applying for admission. I didn't give up. The last thing I ever do in my life is to give up. I don't ever give up. Regardless of how many times I fail, I don't ever give up. So what I did was I continued applying. Eventually, on this fateful day, I opened my my email when I'm on my way back from work and realized that University of Tromsø, Norway, has offered me admission. That was how I went to Norway. On Norway, tuition free. I didn't have to bother about how to pay my tuition free. So that's taken care of. What I had to bother about was the funding for my accommodation and for feeding. Other things, the school has taken care of it. But of course, I have supportive siblings that made it possible for me to go to Norway. And I don't want to talk about the study permit process and everything, because I'm not focusing on Norway on the channel. I'm focusing on Canada. So, but eventually I went to Norway. But the idea of coming to Canada actually started, I would say, the very first month in Norway. Because I realized that to integrate properly in Norway, you need to be able to speak Norwegian language. If I'm not mistaken, I think it's called norsk. I hope my Norwegian friends can correct me if I'm wrong. But I made up my mind then that I'm not sure how well I can or how long it would take me to learn a new language other than English and my native language I can speak. I chose there and then to leave Norway once I'm done with my master's. By the way, I took master's in peace and master of philosophy in peace and conflict in Norway. But there's something that happened while I was in school in Norway. I told myself, even if you're going to leave Norway, make a mark. Be able to show that you have a lot to offer. And that came in the form of seeing how much impact I can make in the school system. Even though, like I said, most of the master's program was taught in English, and the undergraduates, of course, undergraduate program were taught in Norwegian language. But I did something. I have, of course, funding some money for my accommodation, but I told myself, I know I've got people that can support me when it comes to accommodation and feeding, but I've got to do this on my own because I've seen the opportunities. That is one thing that's very important. If you move to a new place, calm down, look around you, ask yourself, are there opportunities that you can grab to be able to make a living as quickly as possible, even though you have other options. In my own case, I have other options. So what I did was, okay, I immediately went to my laptop while I already have resumed my studies at the University of Tromsø. Did apply to so many places for work. Some cleaning positions, some hotel dishwashing positions everywhere. Believe me, I did all those things. Yeah. So we're not going to hide that. I did all those things. In fact, I will say this: what helped me to save enough money to pay for everything I needed in Norway was my dishwashing job and my cleaning job while I was taking my master of philosophy. So it's not. I don't take those opportunities for granted. But when I started those two jobs, I was going to classes too. I told my siblings, "Hey, you guys got to stop sending me any money. I don't need that. I've got some job now to do, and I'm taking care of myself." But that wasn't enough for me. It wasn't enough. What I did immediately again was there were opportunities they were looking for some sectional lecture. I'll call them sectional or lecturers in the school. What I did was I said, "Oh, lecturer, I can't speak Norwegian. They won't even take me." But I don't care. What I did was in the job description, I copied it. I went to Google and typed Google Norwegian to English and translated what was said in Norwegian to English. I realized they're looking for a lecturer that would teach the students in undergraduate class, sociology, students of sociology, students of community planning, and students of political science. You know what I did? I sent in my application. I sent in my application that I would teach that course, European Intergroup Relation, if only the students will want to take the course in English, that I can take the course. Remember, history was my background, so I was ready for that. So I submitted my application. By then, I was built to travel to Germany for a conference where I was supposed to deliver a paper. I traveled to Germany, delivered my paper at the conference. On my way back, a professor called me and asked me if I want to take that teaching position. I said, "Why not? I can." Are they ready to learn using English language? She said, "Well, they can. They don't have a choice." But I seem to be the most qualified. Taking into consideration my background, I got that job of becoming a lecturer for 2 semesters at the university where I was taking my master's program. So I was doing dishwashing, I was doing cleaning, I was also a lecturer. But the funny thing about this is this: even while I was in the hotel where I was doing dishwashing, the same students that I would teach in class will also come there to eat, and I would clear their tables. And you know what? They respected me for doing that, and I respected them for even respecting me that I will come to class to teach them, and I will still go and do my dishwashing job. Which, of course, I proudly did because he supported me while I was in Norway. But to cut the long story short, I was in Norway for 2 years. While I was there, I moved around Canada, moved around the US, moved around states in Europe. But towards about a year towards the end of after my first year in Norway, I was started researching schools. By then, I've come to Canada many times. I just realized Canada is the place to be. But then I was still drawn to US because of my friends, my family, my siblings there, and my cousins there. I was still drawn to US. So while I was in Norway, I made preparations to move. I applied to schools in Norway, in Canada, for another master's program in Canada. And for US, I was preparing to move, not just for schooling, but for as a worker from Norway. So, but eventually, when I finished my school in Norway, I moved to the US. I stayed in US for 6 weeks, trying to see how much I can fit in. It's a good place. But I just realized, no, Canada is calling you. Go to Canada. So I left on this fateful night. I left US. I came to Canada to resume my studies in Masters at the University of Regina, Saskatchewan, Canada. I finished, of course, while I was taking this is where it becomes interesting right now. While I was taking my master's program, remember, even before I came to resume my master's, I've got one job waiting for me here through the program. Also, I have saved enough money that will potentially help me to pay my tuition when I get to Canada. I wasn't so concerned about funding there because I've made some money in Norway. But this is where it becomes interesting, particularly for those that don't have enough money to fund their education. It becomes interesting right now. I came to Canada with one teaching assistant position that was offered to me along with my program. But you know what I did when I came? I sat down. Within a week, 2 weeks, I realized, I went to the school job site. I realized, oh my God, there are so many good teaching, so many positions I can apply here, and it doesn't matter to me if they don't call me for interview, but it matters to me that I try. Again, it matters to me that I try. So what I did was, I sent my application for this job, for this job, for this job, for this job, for this job. And you know what? The appointment kept coming. So for like 2 years that I was here for my master's, I was undertaking my master's. Guys, I will say this, I never paid a dime from the money I came from Norway. I came from while living in Norway. I saved that money. That money was part of the money I used to buy my first house in Canada. But I came here for school and I got opportunities that enabled me to pay my tuition, my accommodation, everything I needed without spending a dime that I came with. By the time I concluded my graduate program in 2 years, guys, I held more than 22 to 25 different student positions within my department and other departments. Remember, guys, I was looking for gaps to fill. The question is, are you ready to fill that gap? In addition to these student positions, that is already more than enough to pay for my tuition and accommodation and everything, I won more than 10 scholarships. Guys, the opportunities are limitless. The opportunities are many. The question should always be, are you ready? The first question in your thoughts when it comes to thinking of coming to Canada for studies shouldn't be, I don't have the money. Oh, that is important. I'll be honest with you. That is important. But should that be the first question you ask yourself? That shouldn't be the first question. Because when it comes to that, there are opportunities that can help you fill that gap. What is more important is asking yourself, am I ready? Have I planned to make this dream a reality? What are the steps I've taken or that I need to take to actualize my dream of moving to Canada for studies, to live, to have a career, and of course, enjoy my life? So, the next video will basically talk about how to know or how to plan to make sure that we succeed on every step we take as we prepare to move to Canada for studies. I made this long introduction to help you understand how one can realize their dreams if only you plan and ask yourself the right questions. Thank you and see you in my next video. Please subscribe to my channel and invite your friends to join us here.